Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Friday, or for those of you who live in time zones of the future, happy Saturday. Welcome to yet another of the Chattering Magpies read-alongs. We are in the middle of Jane Eyre and all of these wonderful, mysterious things going on. And yes, we are going to get into some very, very interesting stuff. I'm glad that you joined me today, or whether you're reading, whether you're watching live or with the rewatch, because we're getting into more, diving deeper into more of the mystery surrounding Thornfield Hall and Rochester. So, welcome everybody. Now, before I start and talk about, TLDR, kind of summarize what we have talked about since then, since we started reading or whatever, for those of you who might be here and have never heard about Jane Eyre, I'll just say hello to everybody on the chat. So, early gang, I want to say hello, Akihana. Look at you, your comment has not been erased. Hooray! It says, hi Magpie, looking forward to this session. Excited to find out what will happen next. Me too. Can't wait for it. Also, Crusher says, I could listen to this book all day, air day. Oh, Crusher, you and the puns. Yeah, afterwards, by the way, if you have any more puns, keep them coming. I do love good puns. Now, you did mention something about dragging it out in the previous one, and I didn't get it quite at first. But then later, as I kind of sat and thought about it, because, I was thinking of puns. And then I think later on, I saw in the comments section, like in the live chat, that you had explained the pun. Dragging it out. Yes. Rochester, getting in drag and masquerading as the gypsy woman. Oh yes, beautiful. I love it. Keep them coming. Akihana is keeping track of when I was gonna go live, so look at that. Little Butterfly is also here, says, hello, I am here listening. Welcome, Little Butterfly. As ever, you are dedicated Jane, well, you and Crusher are both our dedicated Jane Eyre memers. So just saying hello and, credit where credit is due. And so happy to have you all here. Probably we'll wait a little bit before the rest of the people get in here. I forget if I announced this on Twitter. Probably not. Oh, Twitter, former whatever, X, Twitter, whatever. Well, I cannot multitask, you guys. So I'm not even gonna try to get on my phone and do the things. I should have done it before, but unfortunately, that's the way it goes. That's why I keep telling you guys, subscribe, turn on your notifications for this page. I promise you not to spam you with unnecessary things. But that way you won't miss a single live. So, let's see. One of the things that I wanted to talk about was just a project that I'm working on. So like you guys, I told you guys I am doing the Blue Castle. I am re-editing it. So I'm clearing it up. And then I'm doing it my way because I like a good audiobook, but I'm doing it my way. So here's the thing. I'm going to upload it to YouTube, the cleaned up version, but I only have so far like 7 chapters done, and it's a 35 chapter book. So do you guys want me to upload it like a session at a time? Or do you guys want me to wait for to upload it until I have the entire book? That way I can upload like a huge file. It'll be like 10 hours. You know what? That's actually doesn't work. Well, I would probably upload in batches, like say divided into 5 videos, but the videos would be uploaded like one after the other. So what do you guys want? What would you rather have? Let me know. But because so far I have edited and cleaned up and it sounds amazing. up to chapter 7, which, spoiler alert for those of you who were not here for the Blue Castle, is right after she learns that, what is it? That she's going to die. I think that's it. Let me check my book. I was editing it. I was doing some editing. Where's my book? Gosh. Okay, here it is. Yeah, so chapter 7 finished is... Yes, right after Valency finds out that she is going to die. And then chapter 8, which I still have to do. I haven't even started it. Chapter 8 is when she takes stock of her life and, you know, how she has not lived a full life. And she just goes through all of the things about... She makes an account of her life. She says that she's like, I'm tired of living a half a life. I'm gonna start living for me. Haven't gotten to that part yet, but I'm going to. So anyway, let me know. Okay, so Akihana says, I'd say it's better to do it in batch sessions. Okay, but do you want me to, because it'll take me like about 2 weeks to get the next session done. So do you guys want me to put all the sessions, like, oh, that's what I mean, like, and the end, okay, you want me to do the entire thing, okay. Say better to in batch sessions, the entire thing. So do you guys want me to wait until I finish editing the book before I upload it? That's probably what I'm gonna end up doing, huh? Okay, so I say batch sessions, entire. All right, so I think what I'm getting is to wait a little bit until I upload the thing, like entire. So I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna finish editing the book, and then I'm gonna upload it, whether it's an entire audio session or if it's like 5, you know, long sessions. But it'll all be uploaded fairly one after the other. Okay, I can do that. What I can also do is, I'm wondering if I could probably upload the audio files for Ko-fi members. Maybe I can do that, because I also kind of want a little bit of feedback on it, since I've never really done an audiobook. So I was hoping, okay, so I need some Ko-fi members who are here. Would you be willing to listen to it? Oh, you know what? Never mind. I'll just wait, and then I'll just go, because if I get sidetracked and I go back to re-edit stuff I already did, yeah. Sorry, I'm thinking out loud, you guys. But anyway, so I'm gonna wait. Be on the lookout for that. So far, it's taken me like, I don't know, 2 weeks to do 2 sessions. So at this rate, maybe I'll be able to do the entire book, and maybe by the end of summer, I will have it. No, by summer, midsummer, we should have it, hopefully. Yeah, I'll work on it. Don't worry, you guys. I'll work on it. Okay, enough about that, you guys. Thank you for your input. Let's get into Jane Eyre. So, kind of like a summary of what happened in the previous session. Okay, TLDR of the book. Jane works as a governess in a rich man's house. She's fallen in love with this man, and he is also fallen in love with her. It's obvious. Anybody with eyes can see it. But the question is not whether he loves her, it's whether he is going to do anything about it, because this is a society, like a status-based society, and she's a governess, and he is her employer. So they have feelings for each other, but there's several obstacles. Okay, so that's so far the book so far. Now, in the previous live read, we had a new arrival come. His name is Mason. When Mr. Rochester heard that he had come, he absolutely was shooketh, and but Jane does not know why. It's still a whole bunch of mystery. And also during the last read that we had, it was very evident that you could just tell that Rochester has feelings for Jane, and Jane is still kind of like ambiguous. She's not going to do anything about her feelings because she knows that it's an impossible love. But she compares she kind of like is seeing how Rochester interacts with Blanche Ingram, who happens to be, I guess, her rival in love. Blanche Ingram is the gold digger, beautiful woman of a high society, but she's just an absolute foil to Jane. In every respect, they're total opposites. So Jane likes to like see them together and see how they interact, and of course she's judging Blanche silently because she's like, yeah, you're not getting any closer to his heart. You're failing. Your game is mid. Anyway, so those are the things that are going on. It's a house party. There's lots of people in Thornfield Hall, including, you know, Mr. Mason, who just came as a visitor from the West Indies. So we're gonna see more about him, more about the mysteries in Thornfield Hall, and hope you enjoy it. Yes, Mason sounds suspicious. Yes, he does. So we'll see. Whoa, sorry about that. Let's get this thing started. Jane Eyre, Chapter 20. I had forgotten to draw my curtain, which I usually did, and also to let down my window blind. The consequence was that when the moon, which was full and bright, for the night was fine, came into her course to the space in the sky opposite my casement, and looked in at me through the unveiled panes, her glorious gaze roused me. Awaking in the dead of night, I opened my eyes on her disk, silver white and crystal clear. It was beautiful, but too solemn. I half rose and stretched my arm to draw the curtain. Good God, what a cry! The night, its silence, its rest, was rent in twain by a savage, a sharp, a shrill sound that ran from end to end of Thornfield Hall. My pulse stopped, my heart stood still, my stretched arm was paralyzed. The cry died and was not renewed. Indeed, whatever being had uttered that fearful shriek could not soon repeat it. Not the widest winged condor on the Andes could, twice in succession, send out such a yell from the cloud shrouding his eyrie. The thing delivering such utterance must rest ere it could repeat the effort. It came out of the third story, for it passed overhead. And overhead, yes, in the room just above my chamber ceiling, I now heard a struggle. A deadly one, it seemed, from the noise, and a half-smothered voice shouted, "Help! Help! Help!" 3 times rapidly. "Will no one come?" it cried, and then, while the staggering and stomping went on wildly, I distinguished through plank and plaster, "Rochester! Rochester! For God's sake, come!" The chamber door opened. Someone ran or rushed along the gallery. Another step stamped on the flooring above, and something fell, and there was silence. I had put on some clothes, though horror shook all my limbs. I issued from my apartment. The sleepers were all aroused. Ejaculations, terrified murmurs sounded in every room. Door after door unclosed. One looked out, and another looked out. The gallery filled. Gentlemen and ladies alike had quitted their beds, and, "Oh, what is it? Who is hurt? What has happened? Fetch a light! Is it a fire? Are there robbers? Where shall we run?" was demanded confusedly on all hands. But for the moonlight they would have been in complete darkness. They ran to and fro. They crowded together. Some sobbed, some stumbled. The confusion was inextricable. "Where the devil is Rochester?" cried Colonel Dent. "I cannot find him in his bed." "Here, here," was shouted in return. "Be composed, all of you. I'm coming." And the door at the end of the gallery opened, and Mr. Rochester advanced with a candle. He had just descended from the upper story. One of the ladies ran to him directly. She seized his arm. It was Miss Ingram. "What an awful event has taken place! Speak! Let us know the worst at once! But don't pull me down or strangle me, he replied, for the Misses Eshton were clinging about him now, and the two dowagers, in vast white wrappers, were bearing down on him like ships in full sail. It's all right, it's all right. It's a mere rehearsal of Much Ado About Nothing. Ladies, keep off, or I shall wax dangerous. Dangerous he looked. His black eyes started sparks. Calming himself by an effort, he added, "A servant has had a nightmare. That is all. She's an excitable, nervous person. She construed her dream into an apparition or something of that sort, no doubt, and has taken a fit with fright. Now then, I must see you all back into your rooms, for till the house is settled, she cannot be looked after. Gentlemen, have the goodness to set the ladies the example. Miss Ingram, I am sure you will not fail in evincing superiority to idle terrors. Emmy and Louisa, return to your nests like a pair of doves as you are. Madame, to the dowagers, you will take a cold to a dead certainty if you stay in this chill gallery any longer." And so, by dint of alternate coaxing and commanding, he contrived to get them all once more enclosed in their separate dormitories. I did not wait to be ordered back to mine, but retreated unnoticed, as unnoticed I had left it. Not, however, to go to bed. On the contrary, I began and dressed myself carefully. The sounds I had heard after the scream, and the words that had been uttered, had probably been heard only by me, for they had proceeded from the room above mine. But they assured me that it was not a servant's dream which had thus struck horror through the house, and that the explanation Mr. Rochester had given was merely an invention framed to pacify his guests. I dressed, then, to be ready for emergencies. When dressed, I sat a long time by the window, looking out over the silent grounds and silvered fields, and waiting for I knew not what. It seemed to me that some event must follow this strange cry, struggle, and call. No, stillness returned. Each murmur and movement ceased gradually, and in about an hour, Thornfield Hall was again as hushed as a desert. It seemed that sleep and night had resumed their empire. Meantime, the moon declined. She was about to set. Not liking to sit in the cold and darkness, I thought I would lie down on my bed, dressed as I was. I left the window and moved with little noise across the carpet. As I stooped to take off my shoes, a cautious hand tapped low at the door. "Am I wanted?" "Are you up?" asked the voice I expected to hear. My master's. "Yes, sir." "And dressed?" "Yes." "Come out, then, quietly." I obeyed. Mr. Rochester stood in the gallery, holding a light. "I want you," he said. "Come this way. Take your time, and make no noise." My slippers were thin. I could walk the matted floor as softly as a cat. He glided up the gallery and up the stairs, and stooped in the dark, low corridor of the fateful third story. I had followed and stood at his side. "Have you a sponge in your room?" he asked with a whisper. "Yes, sir." "Have you any salts? Volatile salts?" "Yes." "Go back and fetch both." I returned, set the sponge on the washstand, the salts in my drawer, and once more retraced my steps. He still waited. He held the key in his hand. Approaching one of the small black doors, he put it in the lock. He paused and addressed me again. "You don't turn sick at the sight of blood?" "I think I shall not. I have never been tried yet." I felt a thrill while I answered him, but no coldness and no faintness. "Just give me your hand," he said. "It will not do to risk a fainting fit." I put my fingers into his. "Warm and steady," was his remark. He turned the key and opened the door. I saw a room I remembered to have seen before, the day Mrs. Fairfax showed me over the house. It was hung with a tapestry, but the tapestry was now looped up in one part, and there was a door apparent which had then been concealed. This door was open. A light shone out of the room within. I heard thence a snarling, snatching sound, almost like a dog quarreling. Mr. Rochester, putting down his candle, said to me, "Wait a minute," and then went forward to the inner apartment. A shout of laughter greeted his entrance, noisy at first, and terminating in Grace Poole's own goblin, "Ha! Ha!" She was there. He made some sort of arrangement without speaking, though I heard a low voice address him. He came out and closed the door behind him. "Here, Jane," he said, and I walked round to the other side of a large bed, which, with its drawn curtains, concealed a considerable portion of the chamber. An easy chair was near the bedhead. A man sat in it, dressed with the exception of his coat. He was still, his head leant back, his eyes were closed. Mr. Rochester held the candle over him. I recognized in his pale and seemingly lifeless face the stranger Mason. I saw, too, that his linen on one side and one arm was almost soaked in blood. "Hold the candle," said Mr. Rochester, and I took it. He fetched a basin of water from the washstand. "Hold that," said he, and I obeyed. He took the sponge, dipped it in, and moistened the corpse-like face. He asked for my smelling bottle and applied it to the nostrils. Mr. Mason shortly unclosed his eyes. He groaned. Mr. Rochester opened the shirt of the wounded man, whose arm and shoulder were bandaged. He sponged away the blood, trickling fast down. "Is there immediate danger?" murmured Mr. Mason. "Puh! No, a mere scratch. Don't be so overcome, man. Bear up. I'll fetch a surgeon for you now myself. You'll be able to be removed by morning, I hope. Jane." "Sir?" "I shall have to leave you in this room with this gentleman for an hour, perhaps 2 hours. You will sponge the blood as I do when it returns. If he feels faint, you will put a glass of water on that stand to his lips and your salts to his nose. You will not speak to him on any pretext. And, Richard, it will be at the peril of your life if you speak to her. Open your lips, agitate yourself, and I'll not answer for the consequences." Again the poor man groaned. He looked as if he dared not move. Fear either of death or of something else appeared almost to paralyze him. Mr. Rochester put the now bloody sponge into my hand, and I proceeded to use it as he had done. He watched me for a second, then saying, "Remember, no conversation," left the room. I experienced a strange feeling as the key grated in the lock, and the sound of his retreating step ceased to be heard. Here, then, I was in the 3rd story, fastened into one of its mystic cells. Night around me, a pale and bloody spectacle under my eyes and hands, a murderess hardly separated from me by a single door. Yes, that was appalling. The rest I could bear, but I shuddered at the thought of Grace Poole bursting upon me. I must keep to my post, however. I must watch this ghastly countenance, these blue still lips forbidden to unclose, these eyes now shut, now opening, now wandering through the room, now fixing on me, and ever glazed with the dullness of horror. I must dip my hand again and again in the basin of blood and water, and wipe again the trickling gore. I must see the light of the unsnuffed candle wane on my employment. The shadows darken on the wrought antique tapestry around me, and grow black under the hangings of the vast old bed, and quiver strangely over the doors of a great cabinet opposite, whose front, divided into 12 panels, bore, in grim design, the heads of the 12 apostles, each enclosed in its separate panel as in a frame, while above them at the top rose an ebon crucifix and a dying Christ. According as the shifting obscurity and flickering gleam hovered here or glanced there, it was now the bearded physician Luke that bent his brow, now St. John's long hair that wavered, and anon the devilish face of Judas that grew out of the panel, and seemed gathering life and threatening a revelation of the arch-traitor of Satan himself in his subordinate's form. Amidst all this, I had to listen as well as to watch, to listen for the movements of the wild beast or the fiend in yonder side den. But since Mr. Rochester's visit, it seemed spellbound. All the night I heard but 3 sounds at 3 long intervals: a step creak, a momentary renewal of the snarling canine noise, and a deep human groan. Then my thoughts worried me. What crime was this that lived incarnate in this sequestered mansion, and could neither be expelled nor subdued by the owner? What mystery that broke out now in fire and now in blood, at the deadest hours of night? What creature was it that, masked in an ordinary woman's face and shape, uttered the voice now of a mocking demon, and anon of a carrion-seeking bird of prey? And this man I bent over, this commonplace quiet stranger, how had he become involved in the web of horror? And why had the fury flown at him? What made him seek this quarter of the house at an untimely season, when he should have been asleep in bed? I had heard Mr. Rochester assign him an apartment below. What brought him here? And why now was he so tame under the violence or treachery done him? And why did he so quietly submit to the concealment Mr. Rochester enforced? Why did Mr. Rochester enforce this concealment? His guest had been outraged. His own life on a former occasion had been hideously plotted against. On both attempts he smothered in secrecy and sank in oblivion. Lastly, I saw Mr. Mason was submissive to Mr. Rochester, that the impetuous will of the latter held complete sway over the inertness of the former. The few words which had passed between them assured me of this. It was evident that in their former intercourse, the passive disposition of one had been habitually influenced by the active energy of the other. Whence, then, had arisen Mr. Rochester's dismay when he heard of Mr. Mason's arrival? Why had the mere name of this unresisting individual, whom his word now sufficed to control like a child, fallen on him a few hours since, as a thunderbolt might fall on an oak? Oh, I could not forget his look and his paleness when he whispered, "Jane, I've got a blow. I've got a blow, Jane." I could not forget how the arm had trembled which he rested on my shoulder, and it was no light matter which could thus bow the resolute spirit and thrill the vigorous frame of Fairfax Rochester. "When will he come? When will he come?" I cried inwardly, as the night lingered and lingered, as my bleeding patient drooped, moaned, sickened, and neither day nor aid arrived. I had, again and again, held the water to Mason's white lips, again and again offered him the same stimulating salts. My efforts seemed ineffectual. Either bodily or mental suffering, or loss of blood, or all 3 combined, were fast prostrating his strength. He moaned so, and looked so weak, wild, and lost, I feared he was dying, and I might not even speak to him. The candle, wasted at last, went out. As it expired, I perceived streaks of grey light edging the window's curtains. Dawn was then approaching. Presently I heard Pilot bark far below, out of his distant kennel in the courtyard. Hope revived. Nor was it unwarranted. In 5 minutes more, the grating key, the yielding lock, warned me my watch was relieved. It could not have lasted more than 2 hours. Many a week has seemed shorter. Mr. Rochester entered, and with him the surgeon he had been to fetch. "Now, Carter, be on the alert," he said to the last. "I give you but half an hour for dressing the wound, fastening the bandages, getting the patient downstairs, and all." "But is he fit to move, sir?" "No doubt about it. It is nothing serious. He is nervous. His spirits must be kept up. Come, set to work." Mr. Rochester drew back the thick curtain, drew up the Holland blind, let in all the daylight he could. And I was surprised and cheered to see how far dawn was advanced, what rosy streaks were beginning to brighten the east. Then he approached Mason, whom the surgeon was already handling. "Now, my good fellow, how are you?" "She's done for me, I fear," was the faint reply. "Not a whit. Courage! This is a fortnight you'll hardly be a pin in the worse for it. Now, you've lost a little blood, that's all. Carter, assure him there's no danger." "I can do that conscientiously." "No, I can do that conscientiously," said Carter, who had now undone the bandages. "Only, I wish I could have got here sooner. He will not have bled so much, but how's this? The flesh on the shoulder is torn as well as cut. This wound was not done with a knife. There have been teeth here." "She bit me," he murmured. "She worried me like a tigress. Then Rochester got the knife from her." "You should not have yielded. You should have grappled with her at once," said Mr. Rochester. "But under such circumstances, what could one do?" returned Mason. "Oh, it was frightful, and I did not expect it. She looked so quiet at first." "I warned you," said his friend's answer. "I said be on your guard when you go near her. Besides, you might have waited till tomorrow and had me with you. It was mere folly to attempt the interview tonight and alone." "I thought I could have done some good." You thought. Yes, it makes me impatient to hear you. But, however, you have suffered, and are likely to suffer enough for not taking my advice. I'll say no more. Carter, hurry, hurry! The sun will soon rise, and I must have him off." "Directly, sir. The shoulder is just bandaged. I must look to his other wound in the arm. She has had her teeth here too, I think." "She sucked the blood. She said she drained my heart," said Mason. I saw Mr. Rochester shudder. A singularly marked expression of disgust, horror, hatred warped his countenance almost to distortion. But he only said, "Come, be silent, Richard, and never mind her gibberish. Don't repeat it." "I wish I could forget it." "You will, when you're out of the country, when you get back to Spanish Town. You may think of her as dead and buried, or rather, you need not think of her at all." "Impossible to forget this night." "It is not impossible. Have some energy, man. You thought you were dead as a herring 2 hours since, and you're all alive and talking now. There, Carter has done with you, or nearly so. I'll make you decent in a trice. Jane," he turned to me for the first time since his re-entrance, "take this key, go down into my bedroom, and walk straight forward into my dressing room. Open the top drawer of the wardrobe and take out a clean shirt and a neck handkerchief. Bring him here, and be nimble." I went, sought the repository he had mentioned, found the articles named, and returned with them. "Now," he said, "go to the other side of the bed while I order his toilette. But don't leave the room. You may be wanted again." I retired as directed. "Was anybody stirring below when you went down, Jane?" inquired Mr. Rochester presently. "No, sir. All was very still." "We shall get you off cannily, Dick, and it will be for the better, both for your sake and for that of the poor creature in yonder. I have striven long to avoid exposure, and I should not like it to come at last. Here, Carter, help him on with his waistcoat. Where did you leave your furred cloak? You can't travel a mile without that, I know, in this damned cold climate. In your room. Jane, run down to Mr. Mason's room, the one next to mine, and fetch a cloak you will see there." Again I ran, and again returned, bearing an immense mantle lined and edged with fur. "Now I've another errand for you," said my untiring master. "You must away to my room again. What mercy you are shod with velvet, Jane. A clod-hopping messenger would never do at this juncture. You must open the middle drawer of my toilet table, and take out a little filial, and a little glass you will find there. No, a little phial, and a little glass you will find there. Quick!" I flew thither and back, bringing the desired vessels. "That's well. Now, doctor, I shall take the liberty of administering a dose myself, on my own responsibility. I got this cordial at Rome of an Italian charlatan, a fellow you would have kicked, Carter. It is not a thing to be used indiscriminately, but it is good upon occasion, as now, for instance. Jane, a little water." He held out the tiny glass, and I half filled it from the water bottle on the washstand. "That will do. Now wet the lip of the phial." I did so. He measured 12 drops of a crimson liquid and presented it to Mason. "Drink, Richard. It will give you the heart you lack for an hour or so." "But will it hurt me? Is it inflammatory?" "Drink, drink, drink!" Mr. Mason obeyed, because it was evidently useless to resist. He was dressed now. He still looked pale, but he was no longer gory and sullied. Mr. Rochester let him sit 3 minutes after he had swallowed the liquid. Then he took his arm. "Now, I am sure you can get on your feet. Try." The patient rose. "Carter, take him under the other shoulder. Be of good cheer, Richard. Step out. That's it." I do feel better," remarked Mr. Mason. "I'm sure you do. Now, Jane, trip on before us away to the back stairs. Unbolt the side passage door, and tell the driver of the post-chaise you will see in the yard, or just outside, for I told him not to drive his rattling wheels over the pavement, to be ready. We're coming. And Jane, if anyone is about, come to the foot of the stairs, and him." It was by this time 5:30, and the sun was on the point of rising, but I found the kitchen still dark and silent. The side passage door was fastened. I opened it with as little noise as possible. All the yard was quiet, but the gate stood wide open, and there was a post-chaise with horses ready harnessed and driver seated on the box, stationed outside. I approached him and said the gentlemen were coming. He nodded, then I looked carefully around and listened. The stillness of early morning slumbered everywhere. The curtains were yet drawn over the servants' chambers' windows. Little birds were just twittering in the blossom-blanched orchard trees, whose boughs drooped like white garlands over the wall enclosing one side of the yard. The carriage horses stamped from time to time in their closed stables. All else was still. The gentleman now appeared. Mason, supported by Mr. Rochester and the surgeon, seemed to walk with tolerable ease. They assisted him into the chaise. Carter followed. "Take care of him," said Mr. Rochester to the latter, "and keep him at your house till he is quite well. I shall ride over in a day or two to see how he gets on. Richard, how is it with you?" "The fresh air revives me, Fairfax." "Leave the window open on his side, Carter. There's no wind. Goodbye, Dick. Fairfax." "Well, what is it?" Let her be taken care of. Let her be treated as tenderly as may be. Let her—" He stopped and burst into tears. "I will do my best, and have done it, and I will do it," was the answer. He shut up the chaise's door, and the vehicle drove away. "Yet would to God there was an end to all this," added Mr. Rochester, as he closed and barred the heavy yard gates. This done, he moved with slow step and abstracted air towards a door in the wall bordering the orchard. I, supposing he had done with me, prepared to return to the house. Again, however, I heard him call Jane. He had opened the portal and stood at it, waiting for me. Sorry, water break. Come, where there... Sorry. Come where there is some freshness for a few moments, he said. That house is a mere dungeon. Don't you feel it so? It seems to me a splendid mansion, sir. The glamour of an experience is over your eyes, he said, and you see it through a charmed medium. You cannot discern that gilding is slime and the silk draperies cobwebs, that the marble is sordid slate, and the polished woods mere refuse chips and scaly bark. Now here, he pointed to the leafy enclosure we had entered. All is real, sweet and pure. He strayed down a walk edged with box, with apple trees, pear trees, and cherry trees on one side, and a border on the other full of all sorts of old-fashioned flowers, stocks, sweet williams, primroses, pansies, mingled with southernwood, sweetbrier, and various fragrant herbs. They were fresh now as a succession of April showers and gleams, followed by a lovely spring morning, could make them. The sun was just entering the dappled east, and his light illuminated the wreath and dewy orchard trees, and shone down the quiet walks under them. Jane, will you have a flower? He gathered a half-blown rose, the first on the bush, and offered it to me. Thank you, sir. Do you like the sunrise, Jane? That sky with its high and light clouds, which are sure to melt away as the day waxes warm. This placid and balmy atmosphere? I do, very much. You have passed a strange night, Jane. Yes, sir. And it has made you look pale. Were you afraid when I left you alone with Mason? I was afraid of someone coming out of the inner room, but I had fastened the door. I had the key in my pocket. I should have been a careless shepherd if I had left a lamb, my pet lamb, so near a wolf's den unguarded. You were safe. Will Grace Poole live here still, sir? Oh, yes. Don't trouble your head about her. Put the thing out of your thoughts. Yet it seems to me your life is hardly secure while she stays. Never fear. I will take care of myself. Is the danger you apprehended last night gone by now, sir? I cannot vouch for that till Mason is out of England. Not even then. To live for me, Jane, is to stand on a crater crust which may crack and spew fire any day. But Mr. Mason seems a man easily led. Your influence, sir, is evidently potent with him. He will never set you at a defiance or wilfully injure you. Oh, no. Mason will not defy me, nor, knowing it, will he hurt me. But unintentionally, he might in a moment, by one careless word, deprive me, if not for life, yet forever of happiness. Tell him to be cautious, sir. Let him know what you fear, and show him how to avert the danger. He laughed sardonically, hastily took my hand, and as hastily threw it from him. If I could do that, simpleton, what would the danger be? Annihilated in a moment. Ever since I have known Mason, I have only had to say to him, do that, and the thing has been done. But I cannot give him orders in this case. I cannot say, beware of harming me, Richard, for it is imperative that I should keep him ignorant that harm to me is possible. Now you look puzzled, and I will puzzle you further. You are my little friend, are you not? I like to obey you, sir, and do things, and to obey you in all that is right. Sorry, guys. Let me read that again. I like to serve you, sir, and to obey you in all that is right. Precisely. I see you do. I see genuine contentment in your gait and mien, your eye and face, when you're helping me and pleasing me, working for me and with me, in, as you characteristically say, all that is right. For if I bid you to do what you thought wrong, there would be no light-footed running, no neat-handed alacrity, no lively glance and animated complexion. My friend would then turn to me, quiet and pale, and say, no, sir, that is impossible. I cannot do it because it is wrong, and would become immutable as a fixed star. Well, you two have power over me, and may injure me. Yet I dare not show you where I am vulnerable, lest, faithful and friendly as you are, you should transfix me at once. If you have no more to fear from Mr. Mason than you have from me, sir, you are very safe. God grant it may be so. Here, Jane, is an arbor. Sit down. The arbor was an arch in the wall, lined with ivy. It contained a rustic seat. Mr. Rochester took it, leaving room, however, for me. But I stood before him. Sit, he said. The bench is long enough for two. You don't hesitate to take a place by my side, do you? Is that wrong, Jane? I answered him by assuming it. To refuse would, I felt, have been unwise. Now, my little friend, while the sun drinks the dew, while all the flowers in this old garden awake and expand, and the birds fetch their young ones' breakfast out of the thornfield, and the early bees do their first spell of work, I'll put a case to you, which you must endeavor to suppose your own. But first, look at me, and tell me you are at ease, and not fearing that I err in detaining you, or that you err in staying. No, sir, I'm content. Well then, Jane, call to aid your fancy. Suppose you were no longer a girl, well reared and disciplined, but a wild boy indulged from childhood upwards. Imagine yourself in a remote foreign land. Conceive that you conceive that you there commit a capital error, no matter of what nature or from what motives, but one whose existence must follow you through life and taint all your existence. No, one whose consequence must follow you through life and taint all your existence. Mind, I don't say a crime. I am not speaking of shedding blood or any other guilty act, which might make the perpetrator amenable to the law. My word is error. The results of what you have done become in time to you utterly insupportable. You take measures to obtain relief, unusual measures, but neither unlawful nor culpable. Still you are miserable, for hope has acquitted you on the very confines of life. Your sun at noon darkens in an eclipse, which you feel will not leave till the time of the setting. Bitter and base associations have become the sole food of your memory. You wander here and there, seeking rest in exile, happiness in pleasure. I mean in heartless, sensual pleasure, such as dulls the intellect and blights feeling. Heart weary and soul withered, you come home after years of voluntary banishment. You make a new acquaintance, but how or where does not matter. You find in this stranger much of the good and bright qualities which you have sought for 20 years, never before encountered, and they are all fresh, healthy, without soil and without taint. Such society revives, regenerates. You feel better days are coming back, higher wishes, purer feelings. You desire to recommence your life and to spend what remains to you of days in a way more worthy of an immortal being. To attain this end, are you justified in overleaping an obstacle of custom, a mere conventional impediment, which neither your conscience sanctifies nor your judgment approves? He paused for an answer. And what was I to say? Oh, for some good spirit to suggest a judicious and satisfactory response. Vain aspiration! The west wind whispered in the ivy round me, but no gentle Ariel borrowed its breath as a medium of speech. The birds sang in the tree-tops, but their song, however sweet, was inarticulate. Again Mr. Rochester propounded his query. Is the wandering and sinful, but now rest-seeking and repentant man justified in daring the world's opinion in order to attach to him forever this gentle, gracious, genial stranger, thereby securing his own peace of mind and regeneration of life? Sir, I answered, a wanderer's response or a sinner's reformation should never depend on a fellow creature. Men and women die, philosophers falter in wisdom, and Christians in goodness. If anyone you know has suffered and erred, let him look higher than his equals for strength to amend and solace to heal. Now, strength to amend and solace to heal. Mhm. But the instrument, God who does the work ordains the instrument. I have myself, I tell you without parable, been a worldly, dissipated, restless man, and I believe I have found the instrument for my cure in... He paused. The birds went on caroling, the leaves lightly rustling. I almost wondered why they did not check their songs and whispers to catch the suspended revelation, but they would have had to wait many minutes. So long was the silence protracted. At last I looked up at the tardy speaker. He was looking eagerly at me. Little friend, said he, in quite a changed tone, while his face changed too, losing all its softness and gravity and becoming harsh and sarcastic. Little friend, you have noticed my tender penchant for Miss Ingram. Don't you think if I married her, she would regenerate me with a vengeance? He got up instantly, went quite to the other end of the walk, and when he came back he was humming a tune. Jane, Jane, he said, stopping before me. You're quite pale with your vigils. Don't you curse me for disturbing your rest? Curse you? No, sir. Shake hands in confirmation of the word. Huh, with cold fingers. They were warmer last night when I touched them at the door of the mysterious chamber. Jane, when will you watch with me again? Whenever I can be useful, sir. For instance, the night before I am married, I am sure I shall not be able to sleep. Will you promise to sit up with me to bear me company? To you I can talk of my lovely one, for now you have seen her and know her. Yes, sir. She is a rare one, is she not, Jane? Yes, sir. A strapper, a real strapper, Jane, big, brown, and buxom, with hair just such as the ladies of Carthage must have had. Bless me, there's that Denton Lynn in the stables, going by the shrubbery, through that wicket. As I went one way, he went another, and I heard him in the yard saying cheerfully, Mason got the start of you all this morning. He was gone before sunrise. I rose at 4 to see him off. End of chapter. Okay, so we have had a very mysterious night in Thornfield Hall, and I'm just gonna end here today. So if you don't want to stick around for the random idle chatter, then you can, click off and go into our next read along. But let's talk about just what transpired. We have for sure, of course, we already have suspicions and glimpses here and there of what is going on in Thornfield. But now we actually get Jane to see as much as she can firsthand the horrors that are in Thornfield Hall. We have some kind of, Grace Poole, what the heck is she doing? She's like a crazy person. Like, she attacked Mason. We have Mason who went up there to the hidden gallery or whatever it is up there. He got attacked. Not only that, but his blood he got bitten, and he actually got to talk as to the person who accosted him, who assaulted him. And it's something that nobody knows. Whatever is going on up there, Rochester made sure that none of his guests knew about it. That he also made up a story about Mason being gone. He had to go travel or whatever, so he left early. I don't know, there's lots of stuff that doesn't seem to add up when it comes to what's going on, what happened that night, who attacked Mason, how did it happen, because Rochester made sure to hide some things. Okay. The thing that is, however, clear is that Rochester is seriously contemplating something that would help him turn a new leaf. Like, we know he has said, I'm tired of my old life of dissipation. I want to turn over a new leaf. I think I have found a means to do it. Now, this means to do it, as Jane, very wisely pointed out, it's, you can't seek to become a better person by depending on another person. You have to do it. You need a higher power to start a new life. So she's being very circumspect, and rightly so, because who knows what the heck he's saying, and she could implicate herself by saying some random nonsense if she's not careful. So he's asking for advice. She doesn't know the particulars, but we know that he's certainly having. I don't know about you guys. What do you guys think? We know there's some whatever design he has in mind. It must certainly involve her, because we know now that he's in love with her. or he at least is attached to her. It's kind of cute though that he calls her his friend. That's cute. Okay. So anyway, Akihana says, I'm still confused by the line, I've got to blow. Yeah, it's like, I've got to blow, Jane, I've got to blow. Like, whatever, like, hearing that Mason was there, that had arrived at his house, it basically, like, struck him as like, oh no, I know, we don't know why. Jane pointed out that Mason seems to be the kind of person who's like, his will is weaker than Rochester's. He seems to be very, you know, Rochester tells him go here and Mason will go. Like he's very pliable. So it's like, what can this guy do? Like it boggles the mind that Mason could harm Rochester unknowingly. And then Rochester says, Jane, you in the same way could harm me unknowingly. So there's, you know, I can't tell you everything because then you would harm me. And she's like, yo, I would never, like, you have nothing to fear from me. I would never harm you. Again, he's not disclosing anything right now. So we'll have to wait further on into the book to see what the particulars of the mystery. But yeah. And again, Little Butterfly says, whatever is happening, it sounds scandalous. Yeah, whatever happened, the attack, it sounds scandalous and absolutely terrifying too. Like, dude, like this, like Mason was attacked by a person who not just used a knife on him, but also bit him. Like that's seriously scary. Like, oh my gosh, like zombies or something. I don't know. You know, Crusher does point out, never a dull moment at Thornfield Hall. You got it, man. Never a dull moment. And then Akihana says, damn, my imagination was telling me a werewolf. Ooh, a werewolf. We did hear snarling, and she did say there was a canine, like dog-like sounds. What the heck? Weird. Yeah, but you know, whatever happened, yes, she freaking bit him. Yes, I wonder if she's crazy that she thinks she's either a vampire or a werewolf. Yes, something there. Crusher says, most families have one secret that must be kept. Oh goodness, I hope none of them are at this kind of level of secrecy. Like, no, oh my goodness, yeah, I know every family has their secrets that they keep, but I hope that none of you ever had to have this kind of secret, like a family member or a friend or whatever who is like homicidal and biting people and attacking them with knives. Oh my gosh, the whole thing is oh yeah, thank you for pointing it out. Little Butterfly says, Jane, please be careful. Like, yeah, I felt like Jane was in serious, like, danger. Honestly, like, what was Rochester thinking leaving her alone with only a door to separate Jane from whatever snarling fiend was on the other side? Like, I would have been terrified, you guys. And then, you guys, to add to all the horrors, she was left with a candle, and the candle was snuffed out, like, and then she was left basically in the darkness, you guys. That's super horrifying. She said it was only 2 hours, but oh my goodness, it must have felt like an eternity being stuck there. Oh my gosh, so scary. Also, Akihana says, LOL, I feel that he's mentioning Ingram as a front to make her jealous. LOL. Good catch. That's a good way of looking at it. That must, if he's using Jane, if he's using Blanche Ingram just as a means to make Jane jealous, man, that's some convoluted stuff right there. Like, yo, Rochester, is there no other way you could? Come on, Rochester. And here's a question. Akihana points out the question, which I will not answer. And those of you who have read the light novel, those of you who have read the novel, do not answer. Okay. No spoilers. I wonder though, who is Grace Poole to both Rochester and Mason, right? That is where the story has its little where the story has its twist. So I will not answer. You will just have to join me for future read-alongs where everything will be explained in clear detail. All the mysteries. You will go back and read and you will say, oh, everything was there. Every single clue was there. And you will love it. I'm sure you will. So all of you guys who haven't read this book, what do you guys think? Have you read anything by Charlotte Brontë before? Or anything of around this period, you know, the Victorian era? This was written in in the mid 1800s. I think around 1840 or so this was published. Yeah, around 1840 this was published. 47, I think. So, have you guys read any other books around this era? If you have, what are they? Anything that you would recommend? I am right now looking for books to read. Once we reread Persuasion. We'll also read Frances Hudson Burnett. I think we're gonna do eventually we'll do we'll do A Little Princess. I also want to read maybe, I don't know, I'm still thinking whether I should read or not Little Women. Still not sure. Because that one is a big book. That's a huge book. If you think Jane Eyre is huge, no, it's nothing to Little Women. It took me quite a while to read it when I first read it. I think I was in like 6th grade, so my English was still not very good. But I remember it took me forever to read it, to finish it. So any other books that you like from this time period, do point them out. I'll check them out. So, yeah, let me know what you like about Jane Eyre so far. And I hope that you continue to join me for future read-alongs. We're gonna pick up, we're gonna do another Jane Eyre on Monday, of course. This Sunday I have some things going on. My father's birthday is actually today, but we're gonna celebrate over the weekend. So, and then I think I'm gonna do other stuff as well. So unfortunately I won't be able to do a Sunday read-along, but we'll pick up on Monday like usual. Okay, so I hope that you guys join me. Let's see, what else do you say? Crusher, imagine if mine brought this story over to Yogurtland. Oh my goodness. Yeah, Ferdinand would be like, nope. Nope. Akihana says the only one I could think of, I guess the books in this time period, is Little Women. Yeah, I like Little Women too. I like the adaptation, the latest one. I like it a lot. I think it might be my favorite. Akihana says, I think it took me a week to read Little Women. Wow. Yeah. Lord of the Rings. Now, Lord of the Rings is, says Crusher. Actually, Lord of the Rings is from the 1900s. So this is from the 1800s. So Lord of the Rings, I believe, was written by Tolkien, and he was a contemporary of C.S. Lewis. And C.S. Lewis was in his, in his prime was very active in the 1940s during World War II. So if he was a contemporary of Tolkien, then probably Tolkien's works are still not in public domain, unfortunately. So that's why I asked from this time period. All right, Akihana says the intrigue. That's what's got me hooked. Haha. Ah, yes, I told you this. The intrigue in this one. Once the book got started, it took us 9 chapters to get started, to get through the childhood parts. But once it gets started, it does not stop. So in the same way, look forward to the next chapter. We have. Actually, it's good that we had those childhood chapters, because soon we will get an update on what is going on with her family, like Mrs. Reed. So, but that is next read along. We will revisit Mrs. Reed and all her family and see what's going on. And of course, we will get more of Jane and Rochester. Let's see where this is going, you guys. Oh, Jane, be careful. Yes, Akihanas. Oh, by the way, thank you, Akihana, for wishing my daddy a happy birthday. Thank you. And asks, C.S. Lewis wrote The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, right? Yes, he did. He wrote a whole bunch of books, especially Christian books, such as Mere Christianity, the Screwtape Letters, and other kind of sci-fi-ish books. But the one that I am most familiar with, because growing up, I read them over and over and over again, were the Chronicles of Narnia. Yes, indeed. One day, when they are public domain, I shall also record them. By the way, those of you who have read The Lion and the Witch and the Wardrobe or the Chronicles of Narnia, which was your favorite Narnia book? Okay? I like The Lion and the Witch and the Wardrobe. It really is super, super, like, it's a classic. But if I have books that I reread over and over again, it had to be The Magician's Nephew and The Horse and His Boy. I just love those. They were just so amazing. Like, when I was a kid, I grew up, I hardly ever went out. Like, I had some circumstances growing up. So to me, I could only take refuge in books. So finding books about adventure and traveling and heroic daring do, that was my jam. And that was what the Chronicles of Narnia did, and especially The Horse and His Boy. Just my absolute favorite. And of course, The Magician's Nephew. Hilarious! Loved it so much. And yes, of course, The Chronicles of Narnia, which was the OG. Anyway, so I digress. Let's see, who else? Akihana says, looking at my family's bookshelf and I'm seeing Rebecca of Sunnybrook Farm. Oh, I haven't read that one. I have to look into it. And then Crusher says, the picture of Dorian Gray. Oh my gosh, the picture of Dorian Gray. I'm gonna read it first and see how it is. You know what? I think there was a Wishbone episode. Was there a Wishbone episode on it? All of you guys who know. There was a show called Wishbone, and they had a dog reenact all of the classics. So I don't know. I have to check. Yeah, I'll look into that one too. All right. Oh, okay. Little Butterfly says The Horse and His Body. I'm just imagining it's The Horse and His Boy is my favorite. Yes, I got a fellow person who knows. Yes. All right, everybody. It has been a delight for me to share Jane Eyre with you today. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, a blessed time, and we will see you on the next read along on Monday. Probably Monday morning. Wait, let me see. Yeah, Monday morning. All right, everybody. Monday morning my time. Take care, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you Monday. Bye-bye.